argument to bring in the additional copy of Elspeth and try to set up a longer game where you're just trying to get Assemble Legion or Elspeth to stick. Um, the rest of his sideboard's pretty narrow. The additional copies of Stormbreath Dragon I don't think are very good here, as Owen has plenty of instant speed removal, and the rest of the sideboard's not really dedicated to this matchup. So I would be surprised to see him bring in Wear Terror if you want to fight over Underworld Connections. Feels a little narrow to me. But the two copies of Chain of the Rocks, certainly, and I believe the additional Elspeth will be coming in.
Turtenwald side, you guys do see it on the screen there at home. 3 Lifebane Zombies, 3 Dark Betrayal, 2 copies of Freakish Cure, 3 Erebos Gata that had 4 copies of Duress. I mean, it's pretty straightforward here. Lifebane Zombie, that's good against green and white decks. Also can be unblockable, but 1 toughness against a deck with Magma Jet, not so much. Dark Betrayal, we're not in the Mono Black Mirror, so that can stay at home. Erebos Gata the Dead, we're not really in the Mono Black or Control Mirror, so that can stay at home. So now you have, these 4 Duress and 2 Freakish Cure. Freakish Cure is pretty easy to bring in. You got Young Pyromancers and Chandra's Phoenixes that you can fire away. Would like to be able to gain some life. And then 4 copies of Duress. Now, this is the more interesting of the choices because, of course, he does have 4 Thoughtseize in his deck already. Michael's deck is a little more spell-heavy, and he's going to be boarding in more spells, as you did mention, with Chain to the Rocks and some other options that he does have. So how many discard spells does he realistically want against this type of deck?
As many as possible. They're the best cards against Red, White, Burn. It's a very realistic game plan for Mono Black to just trade 1-for-1 with Thoughtseizes and Duresses, and then win the game with an Underworld Connections, a Pack Rat, or a Desecration Demon. If Owen had the ability to go up to 10 Duress effects, it would probably be correct in this matchup. So I would definitely bring in all 4, and I think a very solid game plan for Owen in these post-board games is just to attack Michael's hand as much as possible and try to land one big threat. I've lost to that strategy plenty of times.
Fair enough. I mean, it seemed like it worked the last game.
Yes.
So, might as well try it again. Don't forget, we do have 3 other matches out there that are taking place. Our 1 seed Raymond Perez playing against our 8 seed Dan Cato. That's a mono blue devotion versus green red monsters matchup. We have Cody Howard, our 3 seed, playing against Andrew Shrout. That's mono black devotion versus green white animals, creatures, aggro, whatever word you want to use. And then Brian Brown, our 7 seed, playing Green Red Monsters. That'll be our backup match against Levy Gaines, playing blue-white control. And of course, as we do get results from those matches, we will let you guys know how they're going. But this first game between Turtenwald and Kenney did not take very long, so it doesn't seem as much of a surprise for them to be pacing the field right now.
Yep. It's really interesting to me looking over at Michael's list because we're both been playing Red, White, Burn, but our decks are probably 15 or 20 cards different from one another. I mean, they're completely different lists, so a lot of room for customization and innovation with these lists.
Turtenwald coming into this tournament, I mean, arguably, I think you could argue the most decorated player that's in the room here, and to see him make it through an 11-round Swiss round tournament, make it through the elimination rounds here with his Mono Black Devotion deck, the deck that he's been playing for a very long time with so much success. Really, really impressive feat of just, one thing about Turtenwald that you always think of is just consistency in his performances, and this is just another showing of that by being able to get through the Swiss and up a game here.
And he plays so fast. His efficiency is really incredible, too.
It's like second nature to him. See, Turtenwald kind of consulting his hand. Not sure if Kenney has kept his 7 or not just yet.
Kenney looks like he's still deliberating this one.
He's not too sure. That looks like a face of a man who wants to take a mulligan. Maybe trying to convince himself to keep. He is going to keep. Now Turtenwald's decision.
And mulligans are a little rough for Owen in these post-board games since so much of his game plan is about trading 1-for-1. But he's more about trying to construct a board state rather than totally just play this trading game. The Duresses and Thoughtseizes aren't necessarily so much about running Michael out of resources, although that's part of the equation, but more about allowing him to land Pack Rat, Underworld Connections on a stable board, or Desecration Demon.
Yeah. And if things go like they did game 1, I think that's how, if Owen could draw up a game, that's how he'd like it to go every time, how game 1 looked. Just Desecration Demon on an empty board and the opponent trying to catch up. But, that really leaves Michael with the ability to draw one of his 2 Chain to the Rocks in his main deck to get himself out of the situation. So it's a situation that Owen kind of crafted himself to. He had his Underworld Connections, had a Thoughtseize, placed a Demon on an empty board, and just cleaned up from there.
It's possible the game plays out a little bit differently if Michael uses his Magma Jet there on the end of turn. On the Pack Rat, he gets to scry right away, maybe finds an answer a little bit sooner. He also gets to play Perforos on an empty board,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's not impossible from there for him to actually start applying a lot of pressure through creatures and burn to beat Owen that way. But that small hiccup there meant he was just a little less efficient than he needed to be, and Owen was able to capitalize.
So Turtenwald's taking his mulligan here. Kenney happy enough with his 6 cards here as he waits for the former player of the year to shuffle up and see if he's going to keep on his 6 cards.
And that's, one of the toughest things about fighting against Mono Black Devotion is if you look at the cards in Michael's list, they're obviously geared towards beating Mono Black. Main
Yep.
deck Assemble Legion being the most noteworthy. I think Perforos and Elspeth are also part of this game plan, but Thoughtseize renders it moot whatever cards you add to your deck to try to fight this matchup.
This is true, as we do have an update for you guys. Raymond Perez, #1 seed with Mono Blue Devotion. He is up a game over Dan Cato playing Green Red Monsters. Again, Perez, the only person that gave Turtenwald a loss over the course of this weekend. As Kenney is going to begin the game with a Mutavault. Turtenwald here with a Swamp past the turn back. So maybe Kenney looking to get in for 2 points of damage, and he is. So Turtenwald's going to go down to 18 here.
Already getting into Owen's kitchen.
Yeah, this is correct. As Turtenwald's going to play a Swamp and pass back. I don't think that Mutavault's going to be coming into the kitchen this go-around, as there's a Sacred Foundry tapped and passing the turn. Turtenwald going to play a Swamp. We'll see if he has maybe a Night Veil Spectre connections. Can represent Hero's Downfall this turn as well. And he does have the 2/3 flyer, so Kenney's going to take a draw step, draws a Sacred Foundry, going to play a Mountain. Mizium Mortars will take care of that, and now in comes the Mutavault. So Turtenwald's going to move down to 16.
Much better start for Michael this game. Obviously not under the gun, and although that has just changed with Desecration Demon, but he's getting to the point where any of his 5 and 6 mana cards, Assemble the Legion, and Elspeth have the potential to be pretty powerful.
Desecration Demon off the top there for Turtenwald. The Scry is going to happen off the Temple. And we'll see if there's a chain from the rocks. Chain to the rocks, excuse me, and there is. So Desecration Demon, you can kindly leave. Mutavault, you can come into the kitchen.
Into the kitchen,
Into the
into Owen's kitchen.
Okay, Owen's kitchen is where Mutavault goes for a 3rd time. So Turtenwald down to 14. He'll play a Swamp, he'll pass the turn back.
And now this is the stage of the game where Michael's actually playing kind of the non-interactive deck. He has potentially a lot of burn left over in his hand, while Owen is simply sitting on creature removal.
Stormbreath Dragon, I think Michaels knows this is gonna bite the dust, but he's got to get this part of the game over with. So Hero's Downfall will trade for the Dragon. Boar Skillgate going to come into play for Kenney, and right now he needs to just draw one of those big spells that we mentioned, Assemble Legion, Elspeth, something of that nature. He's only got 2 lands in his hand right now. He needs a spell that's some action here. As Turtenwald's going to put a card to the bottom here for Farika's Cure. So let's see what he can find. It's a Temple of Triumph, which can help fix his draw a little bit.
Nothing wrong.
Looks like he does have a spell, and this is another dragon. Okay. An attack here, and a Hero's Downfall will trade for that. Now, the important thing here is that as Turtenwald is using these Hero's Downfalls, that means that if Michael does draw his Planeswalkers, it's likely they're going to live now.
Yes, he's definitely got a ton of very powerful draws from this spot. Owen is just sitting on some cures, so
Yeah.
Michael has a lot of time to find one of his big cards.
Another Temple off the top. So Michael scries to the bottom, draws a Temple. Scries to the bottom, draws a Temple. Scries to the bottom with this Temple. Mutavault's going to come in. You have to expect that's going to die too. So Farika's Cure is going to get used to take care of that. Turtenwald's going to go up to 16. And now he's going to take a draw. It's a Swamp. He'll pass the turn back. So both players basically playing draw go here. The scary thing here, if you're Kenney, is that Turtenwald's draws are better than yours.
Well, Michael has more draws that just end the game. Owen has a lot of reactive cards from here. The big draws for Owen at this point are Desecration Demon, Underworld Connections, and Pack Rat. Those are the big ones.
Yeah, those might be game enders, however, as Grey Merchant of Asphodel is going to come in, going to push Turtenwald up to 18. Kenney goes down to 18, so I'm doing some of the work here. Kenney does draw a spell this go around. Let's see which one it is.
I believe it is a Young Pyromancer.
All right, well, that's in. And it's likely going to die in a moment, but it is in for now. As Turtenwald draws a card for the turn. It is a Swamp. He's got a lot of those in his hand. I think just one removal spell left, which is this Farika's Cure. So Turtenwald's going to go up to 20. Kenney down to 16. Turtenwald currently ahead, but he has only lands in his hand.
And this is part of the reason my red-white burn list tries to convert into just a straight burn deck against mono black and post board. Trying to win with creatures is just a real uphill battle. They have so much removal.
Mountain off the top there for Kenney. He plays a Sacred Foundry tap, passes the turn. Turtenwald will take a draw. That one looked like a relevant spell, attacking for 2, put Kenney down to 14. Let's see if it was. looks like it is.
Uh,
Uh-oh, troubles here.
all right. Elspeth or bust.
The game changes very quickly when Pack Rat shows up with open mana. So now he's going to
Yep.
discard one of those useless swamps, make a Pack Rat, and here we go.
Yeah, I think he has a 1-turn window to overload Mizium Mortars.
Here's an attack here for 2, 4, 6. Discard. I think he's going to see. We're going to see him discard again, most likely. He will be playing the role of Pack Rat right now. Magma Jet, and
Yeah.
that's not going to do it.
No. Both players there were playing off the top of their deck, but Owen found some live action first and takes the match.
Yeah, that's the situation there that I kind of mentioned where I do agree that Kenney has some very good draw steps in that situation, and some of the Legion being one of them, but it felt like Turtenwald just had some draw